Jim, let's move on to the reviews because we gotta. WWE Saturday night's main event. The first one we've seen in a little while. And they had a big show live on NBC.
A really big shoe. I thought Ed Sullivan was on CBS. Now, this was on NBC. And it's the first one. It's been like 3 months. Right? It hasn't been 40 years now. They've come back, but they were in Tampa. Sun was shining. The birds were singing. The weather was wonderful. And
Hogan couldn't be there. His son was getting married.
Well, yeah, they're right down the road from Hoganville, but Hogan didn't make an appearance again. Well, how many children does he have now that he's admitting to? Multiple weddings could occur. It's May, but no, they're in Tampa and they're leaning into the walk-ins. Boy, they love everybody walked in. We had a camera on everybody that walked into the fucking locker room. And old Joe Tessatori with the voiceover like he was prefacing the Super Bowl. Did you get the feeling that the Goodyear blimp should have been fucking crossing back and forth in the sky across the building? It was very grandiose and verbose, etc. But they're making it a big event, right? And then I like the open that they do where they do the retro VCR 80s footage. Of course, that's a 70s TV that they're using there. I mean, there was snazzier TVs in the 80s, but the retro VCR 80s open that they do with the old stars, and they go into the modern footage. The modern footage looks better, but the 80s had more stars, I think. But in the modern footage, to be honest, there's a nice shot of a guy wearing a Cornette face t-shirt, which now that I've said that, it probably won't make the fucking cut the next time around.
Oh, I didn't see that in the open of the show in the VHS.
Yes, they go to.
I didn't see.
Yeah,
that.
They go to the modern footage goes to a crowd shot, and boom, and there's the fellow exhilarating himself with his arms up in the air, not down anywhere down. His arms were up in the air where everybody could see his hands. But he was exhilarating himself.
Hey, real quick on that topic, thank you to everyone who's a member of the Cult of Cornette who has gone to these events over the last few days, including Saturday night's main event, and sent in pictures of themselves at the event in a Jim Cornette shirt. We've had a few of them on the Cult of Cornette Facebook group, but it's very cool to see.
Yes, and I've been wondering where all my shirts went. Several people are on Facebook wearing my shirts, and I want them back. I'm getting cold here. It's fucking chilly. Dropped them off the dry cleaner. Next thing I know, they're gone. Anyway, so let's talk about Joe Tessatori, and who. Now, his background is he has admitted to being a wrestling fan in the past. I don't know how far back that goes, but he was a regular sports announcer type fellow, correct? Came from ESPN one of the.
Still is, I believe.
Well, is he working on the side now in the real sports along with the WWE? I wouldn't think he'd have time.
Oh, I don't know if WWE's his only gig. I think he still does real sports. Real sports. I hate to say professional wrestling.
But now that there is such a fucking divide now. But anyway, I'm wondering, does he understand? He's got to be standing there next to Jesse Ventura going, my God, they have paired me to try to get a broadcast out of the Crypt Keeper. Why does he understand Jesse's cultural significance? Or is he... I'm wondering, is he coming into this going, what the fuck?
If he's a wrestling fan, he should.
Well, I don't know. He's been a wrestling fan since the fucking... Was he an old days wrestling fan, or has he come along in the modern times? He seems to be an older fellow. But...
See, Jesse Ventura needs someone to play off. That's the best way to use him. That's the way Vince McMahon worked with him. That's the way Gorilla Monsoon worked with him. And some of these guys may not really know how to play off him, and it was an interesting journey for Jesse Ventura.
Well,
this
now,
week's show.
to be fair, what way is there to play off of this? Ha, we should get Grandpa his meds early next year or next time. Oh, how do you? It's I don't are people writing some of these little comedic lines that Jesse tries to drop in and he's just not delivering them right? Because I can't imagine this would be in the final script, they say in showbiz. He's meandering off into fucking tangents, and I knew, Brian, I could feel it in my bones as soon as he did the intro, the stand-up where he said, talking about the cage match, they're gonna stay inside there. Somebody's gonna win inside the cage. I said, he doesn't know what they're gonna fucking do, does he? And he worked there. But is it like he can remember the cage matches in Portland in the 70s, but he can't remember 1987 in the Garden?
Well, we could just talk about this here, even though it took place later when he was on commentary.
Well, let's just flip. I'm going to flip ahead in my notes to that.
He made a few comments about how, NBC would never allow a cage match. He was doing commentary for the cage matches. Orndorff and Hogan was one of the more famous things from that era. They used that on a bunch of commercial tapes.
Hogan and Bossman.
And then Hogan and Bossman in 89. When I was a kid, that's all people talked about. He superplexed him off the top of the cage. Even when you say it, it sounds ridiculous. Like, no way. And that's what he did. He fucking did it.
Yeah, hey, if you think only the kids were talking about it, fucking out, because it was Bubba. I watched it, and he called me the next day and said, did you see the superplex I took off the top of the cage? Because that bump made him like fucking $25,000 or whatever the fuck it was.
And Ventura was there. I mean, that was a really memorable Saturday night's main event.
And
Zeus was in front of the cage to confront Hogan before the match.
So, since we are into talking about this, to keep not to be broken up with the subject matter. So Jesse had prefaced that, and then of course they pitched to Cole and McAfee, who do the broadcast at ringside, and you got Joe and you got Jesse at the podium up there. But then apparently the deal is they put Jesse on color in one match per show. And so they showed video, by the way, of Jesse in 1986 in the WWF working with Plowboy Frazier. Did you see that? Uncle Elmer.
I remember the match. It was the Hillbillies against Jesse Ventura, who had already been a commentator. It was one of his last matches, if not the last match, and Piper and Orton.
And bless Plowboy's heart that he still makes network television in the 2020s. If somebody had told him that in the actually he was egotistical enough, he would have believed it. But anyway,
it's just crazy to think of Jesse Ventura versus Plowboy Frazier on national TV.
And my God, and what should the penalty have been for booking that? But when Ventura at ringside joins Cole and McAfee, the first thing, he wouldn't stop talking over the ring announcer. What's her name? Can't remember her name. But nevertheless, she's trying to lay out the rules of the cage for the people, Brian, for the people. But Jesse was nattering back and forth at Cole and McAfee. And so he wasn't listening. So here's another thing. They're having the cage match with Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre, where he, at the start, why did the producer, whoever is producifying these things in the truck, not in the first break or when they got off camera with Jesse, not say to Jesse, remember they could escape the cage or whatever, who knows? So now he's glossed over the fucking instructions again. And plus it's bad television because she was on the PA system. She was talking to the people. Why would the commentator not stop fucking talking? Help me.
To be fair, McAfee chirps up a lot when other people are on the mic or talking or other things are happening. That's happened a bit lately. With Jesse Ventura,
well, no, this was again, like an entire stream of conversation.
Do you remember what he was arguing about? I don't even know if arguing is the word. He said from the Uncle Elmer clip, I was the only announcer to ever be an announcer and then wrestle and then announce.
Yes.
And then McAfee's like, well, McAfee did it. And then he turns to Cole, not knowing anything about Michael Cole's history. And Michael Cole's like, well, I did too. And Jesse goes, who did you wrestle? And Cole should have said the answer. He didn't, because the answer would have been Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
And he didn't say it because Ventura would have flipped if he had heard that. That was a WrestleMania match, Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler. But yeah, it started off, you could tell that there was an issue meshing, and the issue is not Cole and McAfee, who, I'm not a big fan of them necessarily, but they have good chemistry together. Jesse was, no one was on the same plane as Jesse, seemingly.
No one was on the same plane because I think the plane has run out of gas.
Was there no one in the headset like saying, Jesse?
Again, that's... It's hard to think that there's not, because of the professionalism normally associated with this broadcast, unless is that part of the deal that you can't fucking tell Jesse what to say or whatever, or you got to give him this in writing 6 hours beforehand. I don't know. But again, so there the cage match starts by they have a jump start at the door where Drew jumps him and they fight on the floor. And then, of course, they got to throw a couple of chairs into the cage, and then the door gets closed. And they have a back and forth fight. Okay, here we go. And they go to break in 2 minutes. And, this is going to be a theme throughout this show, but here's the first comparison with the two products. There were a couple matches on this show I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of. At least not necessarily for them to be longer, just not to have a fucking 4.5 minute commercial break in the middle, to where you at least saw what the fuck. And on the other promotions offering, I was willing to fucking turn to crime and mug senior citizens to goddamn get some of these matches to fucking stop. So there's a wide gap in between the two there that somebody could certainly fill that hole. But when they came back, after the break, they're kind of already going into their fucking, their finish. Priest made a comeback, and Priest again was climbing to the top. He was obviously trying to escape. And here's where, and I don't know why Jesse wasn't picking up on this yet, but also, what the fuck? The baby face is trying to get away from the heel. This doesn't, no, you don't want to see Priest try to fucking get out. And Bruno got away with it because he soundly thrashed fucking the heel, the villain, and then walked out the door triumphant when the guy was fucking laying there, because that was the rules of that time. But now that there's a pin involved, that's part of the fucking deal. And especially if you haven't convincingly beat the fuck out of the guy first. I'll get to that in a minute. Drew superplexed Priest off the top of the cage, which basically the way they did it that way is because Priest was the one that wanted to take the superplex. And Drew was the one that said, okay, I'll give it. But who's the baby face? And then, they had the big 1-2 and some false finishes, and Drew beat the shit out of Priest with a chair. And then Priest came back with a chair. And then Priest went for the concerto and hit it on Drew McIntyre. And it looked fake, as it always does whenever anybody hits anybody with that fucking thing. But Priest has got, okay, Drew McIntyre is this fucking asshole that's been tormenting young Priest. And he's got him there and he caves his head in with a chair and he can't turn him over and cover him with a fucking hand on his chest or a finger in his fucking nose or whatever. 1, 2, 3. He stands up and walks out the door. And well, he stands up and he walks to the door. And as he's going through the open door, he thinks about it. The fans in the building are booing, like, no, where the fuck are you going? Beat the fucking guy. And he thinks about it, and then he steps down and wins. And Brian, before we talk about Jesse Ventura's reaction to that, I've got to get your thoughts on the match and the finish.
You almost felt like it was a double turn, executed really poorly. Because Priest certainly seemed like a heel. And I had nothing but sympathy for McIntyre at the end.
Yes.
Was it a double turn?
I don't think it was supposed to be.
Him walking out of the cage, just that alone, the way he did it. I don't know. He deprived the fans.
The announcers were like trying to sell it as, well, he has, gotten his revenge by soundly thrashing yonder varlet or whatever. But there was hardly any of the match on fucking television. And in what we saw that made Priest look not weak, just stupid, confusing, prickish, possibly cowardly a little earlier. And then at the end, just what the fuck? Blah.
I think this whole feud has kind of been blah. And they've had like big matches and seems like several blow-off matches potentially. They've been a part of several multi-man matches, but
Drew McIntyre is a star. Why would you do it? Isn't it better to have fucking Drew McIntyre get outsmarted in some kind of way and fucking dives into the cage and fucking bounces off and gets pinned in a flash by Damian Priest than have him laid out, have his fucking head caved in and walked off on like a goddamn yesterday's Twinkie wrapper in the fucking street of life? Wouldn't it be? I don't. What? Hey, Mo.
Should McIntyre be a babyface right now? Just based on the way everyone's currently aligned on the roster?
No, because I like him so much more as what he's been doing, just not this. Why, again, why give him fucking alleged brain damage and just leave him laying to save him from getting pinned? What?
And I feel like it's 2 years straight of saying this, or maybe a little less, I don't know. How many times can you say they got to do something different with Priest now? They got to do something different with Priest. I still don't care. At this point, put him in a different color, just anything different. And what's he going to do now? Maybe as a heel, he can get fired up. I kind of think we're exhausted at him as a babyface who doesn't really do anything.
Well, I think that this wasn't meant to turn him heel, but it might have. So maybe they can figure out a way to further that. But, much like many of the archdioceses around the country, we need a new priest. But anyway, back to the finish of the cage match. Jesse Ventura watched Damian Priest walk out at Boom and the bell ring, and it was like aliens from another world had landed. What the fuck? If he could have said fuck, how do you win? This is a quote. I wrote it down. How do you win it going out the door? This is another quote. What kind of BS is that? You can walk out the door? They've been doing it like this for 40 fucking years. I can't take it. And he wouldn't get off it. And at that point, unless he's just turned, there's a thing where they're trying to talk to you in your headset from the truck, but you can turn their volume down, and he had to have, because he was going on and on. And then he started rolling his eyes. Boy, that was exciting, wasn't it? That's a quote. That is a quote. Boy, that was exciting, wasn't it? Why did he have his limo driver pull up and pick him up at the door? And they couldn't stop him. They couldn't talk over him. Oh my God. Yeah, that was the greatest shit I've ever heard. He just shit all over it. I've heard wrestling promoters do promos on TV about the opposition running against them in a town that was more professional and fucking favorable than that fit. Jesse didn't like that fucking finish. What? You said on the first couple of Saturday nights main event, oh, but Jesse makes it. He's the era, the name. It's the Do we need to maybe ask Jesse to watch at home next time?
I don't know. It did seem like he aged like 10 years between the last main event and this one.
He was dehydrated. Somebody needs to put a garden hose up his ass and fill him up with another 60 pounds of water.
He got there. He was a part of the opening thing with Joe Tessatori, or whatever his name is. I think that is his name, Joe Tessatori.
Yes, Tessatori.
And then later on, so there's a gap right there. Where was he at catering? Where was he? Later on, he comes out for commentary where he seemingly has no idea the rules of a cage match, including the ones he called. I believe Hogan used to try to make it dramatic and go over the top. Bruno always left through the door and just lifted his arms up. Andre left through the door. I mean, we've seen a lot of these matches. Jesse called some of them. He had no idea. No one clued him in. And then Jesse just decided, I mean, it's so over the top. I mean, it would almost make you think they were okay with it. But during that entire match, no one gave him a heads up on what's going on or anything. It's questionable just the way it happened. But it was great.
I can't explain it, but I guarantee you, when in the truck they were hearing what kind of BS is that? You could walk out the door. Boy, that was exciting, wasn't it? And the fact that the other announcers are trying to go somewhere else, somebody was saying, lay out Jesse. Lay out Jesse.
They should have him do more commentary. The voice of the fans. He tells it like it is. This is BS. It would have been great if he asked for a refund. You should give the fans back their money.
Ixnay on the e-fund, Ray.
Listen, Jesse, you succeeded in running Hogan away, but now we got to let you go.
Anyway, but the problem, okay, here was my summation of this in the notes. There wasn't 10 minutes of the match on the air. It was a rotten finish. It switched Priest heel and they beat Drew McIntyre. Well, holy shit. But that was in the middle of the show. We wanted to lead with that because of Jesse's absolute astonishment and gobsmackery that they would allow such a thing to happen in one of their matches on the program that a company he's been associated with on and off for 45 fucking years.
They should have had him on every match on this show.
Oh, good Lord. All right, but what they opened with, Brian, I'll have you know, good sir, they opened hot. They wanted to catch people right off the bat. Here comes Seth, Franklin Rollins, and his henchmen now, Braun Breaker and Paul E. Danger Heyman. And they look fucking great together. They look just fabulous, just swell. And this is the new top heel. Is this going to be the new bloodline without being a bloodline? It's a new top heel stable, which we're fortunate to live in these times, Brian. And then they bring Sammy out because he's very popular. And they start chanting right away, CM Punk. And then, Mussolini in Tampa Bay. He was very close to that. The Bay is very close to where they are. The building is very close to the water. And the baby faces hit the ring and jump start it, and they get in a four-way. And mentioned this earlier, but especially if you're just popping in on the YouTube, folks. They had a little flurry and they stop Sammy and Braun clotheslines him over the desk and they go to the break in like, what, a minute and a fucking half or whatever. And by the time they come back, they've gotten the heat on Sammy, but Sammy hits a hot tag and it's a hot tag. I'm not just saying that sarcastically. He set it up and boom, he hit it. It got a big pop. And Punk makes a comeback and goes through some false finishes. But Seth fucking caught him with a pedigree and sidelined him, and Sammy saved, and it was Sammy and Braun, and he hit a dive, and there was another break. I mean, what, they just came fucking back. And by the time they come back, they're ready to go. I'm like, God damn it. This is like when the reception used to be bad late at night, Brian, when I was trying to get Bruiser's TV from Channel 4 in Bloomington, Indiana, and I hadn't put my big antenna up yet, and I was still dealing with the rabbit ears, and it would waver in and out when Baron von Raschke had the claw on Bob Ellis. But finally, then they hit some simultaneous cold tags, which I wasn't as thrilled about. And Sammy made the big comeback on Braun and went for the kick, and Paul grabbed his leg. The managers are interfering again. It warms the potential pimple on my taint to see stuff like that. And so as the referee and Sammy are with Paul, Bronson Reed appears at ringside and spears CM Punk through the barricade. And then Sammy was aghast and alone, and Braun Breaker speared Sammy. Boom, 1, 2, 3. And I enjoyed what I saw of this, and I could have seen maybe 3 or 4 more minutes of it if they would have been so kind as to give it to me. But and boom, they did that, and then Reed came in and Seth hugged him, and it got a big pop because now people can see this modern, new faction forming. And Bronson Reed shook hands with Braun Breaker. Of course, this Seth's opening line always from now on every week has to be, "This is my friend Braun and my other friend Braun." And they all raised their hands, and Punk went after Paul like he was going to pull him down by the leg. And the heels grabbed Punk and held him out, and Bronson Reed
Paul did a splash. Oh, Bronson Reed.
What, no, Bronson. No, they don't want to kill Punk, for fuck's sake. He's still got time on his contract. They let Bronson Reed do it. If they want to get rid of somebody, they'll let Heyman fall on it. But it was okay. Like I said, I'd like seeing a little bit more of it. Because that was kind of the thing I was interested in of the night. But your thoughts?
I never really thought about it. They really should use Heyman's girth and have him like do a splash, even if he can't get off the ground, just standing and just kind of fall.
No. The injury rate would be, hey, he could find some way to fucking be dangerous when he weighed 196 pounds. Unintentionally, but still.
I thought the match was all right. I like the Bronson Reed surprise because it was a surprise to me. I forgot about him. Not in a bad way, but he had been gone for a while. He's been injured. I wasn't thinking like, oh, he's due to return. So that's the kind of surprise that I like when I don't anticipate it at all. And of course, there's the history with him and Rollins. He's the one who took out Rollins when Rollins was off for a while. Injured for a while.
Yes. And that's why they teased the little stare down there for a second and then had the big hug to show everybody they're all on the same page. And it's a shocking formation of this group and everything. And there's Paulie again smiling. The jowls are flapping in the breeze. He's happy about this whole thing. So I like the group, and I know it's a network TV special. I know it's basically to promote their regular programs, but they could have easily eliminated having to go to Zelina and Chelsea Green and given that 6 minutes plus entrances to another one of these matches, or probably two, because I think the main event might have got 4 minutes on the air, but we'll get there. Anyhow, allow me to turn the page to the aforementioned.
Is Punk injured? Is they going to do I mean, when I say injured, not for real, but is Punk going to be off for a while?
Well, I don't know.
Right,
I haven't checked in with him. He usually emails me his schedule for the month so I can, know how to book his limos. How do I know what they're going to do?
They brought Bronson Reed back and he gave him the big splash. The last time we saw him do that, he took Seth Rollins out of commission.
Well, no,
they built it up as being a dangerous move that could hurt. It took Braun Strowman out of the company. That move.
Well, no, part of that was, self-inflicted by Braun from
Braun
being too highly paid, I think.
But Braun from Braun?
To Braun from Braun. No, didn't they? He splashed Seth about 3 or 4 times. He just gave Punk the one here. So I think he'll be okay by next week, won't he? Isn't it about a week per splash?
Unless he has like a film roll or something.
Well, in that case, then they ought to go and see him show up to shoot the movie with his ribs taped up.
Well, who knows? But back to the exciting Zelina Vega versus Chelsea Green match you were going to go to.
Yes, it lasted about 6 minutes. And did you see? Now I guess they say it's broken, or at least they said that on the Twitter. But right at the finish, Zelina tries a 619 on Chelsea, and she got completely hung up in the ropes to where her feet didn't go anywhere near Chelsea's face. So as she's hanging there in the ropes, she just reached her right foot out and boop, just kicked fucking Chelsea right in the goddamn nose, right in the fucking face. Boom! And Chelsea grabs it and goes backward. And in a second, she's bleeding. She got a definite bloody nose, and apparently they've diagnosed it on Twitter. She did, at least, as being broken. But it was so funny because there's no way that anybody's going to buy this, that she's already missed this thing and gotten hung up, obviously. And then she just said, well, there she is. Bam! Just kicked her right in the fucking face. And then gave her a sunset flip power bomb off the turnbuckle. 1, 2, 3. So that did her wonders too, I'm sure. I wonder if she could break her nose and give her brain damage in the same match. Did I miss anything about that, Brian?
No, I don't think so.
Tell me that Jimmy Hart at ringside did not look exactly the same as Jimmy Hart on a clip from Saturday Night's Main Event in 1986.
I mean, for the most part.
There was no difference.
He's aged incredibly well. Is that the same Jimmy Hart who was last seen on the show getting booed with Hulk Hogan?
Yes. He had to have some of the heat washed off him. So he got to be there with Bushwhacker Luke. Jesus Christ. Bushwhacker Luke at ringside, or which was it, Butch or was it Luke? Jesus Christ! Now
it was Luke. Butch is dead.
It was Luke. That's what I'm saying. But when I said Butchwhacker instead of Bushwhacker, that threw me off the goddamn deal.
Oh man, you know what I loved in Memphis? Real quick aside here, when they had the thing where Jimmy Hart with Bobby and Coco had like a little mini feud with the sheep herders of Boyd and Williams, and they're cutting promos on each other like face to face in a sense. Jimmy Hart's in the ring and Jonathan Boyd's on the mic by Lance. It was great. It was heel versus heel, but I loved it.
Well, Jonathan Boyd was so cranky. He was believable that he would be mad at anybody, heel, babyface, or anybody else. And Jimmy, again, people could like him as long as he was saying something that he would normally say about people that they didn't like. But then he could turn it around. But nevertheless, they were at ringside, and so was Vikingo. Old Vikingo has made the big jump over there to the big time. And it was 9 o'clock now after those, seriously, after the tag team match, which we barely got 10 minutes of on the air, and Chelsea and Zelina, it was the 9 o'clock hour. And it was time for John Cena's entrance. And John Cena sucks. John Cena sucks. And the match with R-Truth. And Brian, I will defend for a second why that I'm not offended by them having this match, booking this match, etc. in theory and principle. Because they want to be able to advertise John Cena on network television special in prime time for ratings and also to promote what they've got going on with his retirement tour and the whole 9 yards. But at the same time, they don't want him going out there and wrestling a goddamn strenuous pay-per-view main event fucking match against a top guy and give that away for free or burn him out or it out or somebody gets hurt. So there is some level of connection from the fantasy universe that R-Truth lives in somewhere there within the more overall broad WWE universe and Cena to where they can have the match and it's an easy short match where John doesn't get hurt. He beats a popular guy. You don't waste a money match. But I think, boy, having said that, even that underperformed the in-ring expectations. Because, Cena can't throw a punch anymore. And the slow, deliberate heat was both slow and deliberate. And then when R-Truth would foil an attitude adjustment and give him the shoulder tackles like Cena does and the spinning suplex, R-Truth picked him up and spun him around and was holding him almost till he was about 2 feet off the mat. And John still had his fucking arm down, like, block this giant fall. I believe Aunt Lola could have taken that bump. But the people that were there were buying this. When R-Truth went for the "you can't see me" and it got a huge pop and he hit it. And then he hit the attitude adjustment and he got the STF and Cena had to get to the ropes. And then it was time for him to walk. Time for him to go home, which after they pretty much walked, as I said, walked through this thing, the match. I mean, again, the people live liked it. It was "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks," and "You can't wrestle, yes you can." But boy, they should have just gone ahead and rolled some bubble wrap out on the canvas. So finally, Cena posted R-Truth and got the title belt, and the referee was just staring at him. He wasn't even going over and giving him any bullshit. Like, don't you dare use that. He was just staring from the corner like, And R-Truth then saw Cena coming at him with the belt, and Cena froze, and they had like a stare down. And it was like Cena was sheepish, like, "Oh, I don't want to hit you after all." And Cena gave the belt back to the referee, who turned to hand it out, and Cena kicked R-Truth in the balls and hit him with the attitude adjustment 1, 2, 3. And I'm thinking, you could have done that without burying the referee. Just kick him in the fucking balls. And then he knocked him out with the fucking belt and left. The end. Is that all there is?
You talking about the Cena comeback or the match?
Well, all of it.
I mean, it makes sense to do something with R-Truth in a sense to finish it off if this is Cena's last year. You know, I forgot how soft Cena was working the last several years as a regular performer. It really stands out. Always has great facial expressions.
Yes.
It's just you're looking at what he's doing and you're like, that's kind of how I wrestle with my kids. Like, no one's going to get hurt now.
And to be quite honest with you, with the amount of money he has at his age, I don't blame him. I wouldn't do things I used to do either, but
But I'm starting to count down those dates. Like I'm getting a little fed up with a lot of the booking has just been off this whole year for me as a fan. I know a lot of other people are just as happy as they've ever been, and there are things that on the horizon could be great. The Heyman group, whatever it is.
the HHG group, wasn't
That's
that what it
right.
was?
That's right.
The corporate owners of ECW at one point.
Jacob Fatu. I mean, there are things I like and things I want to see how they're going to play out, and big events I'm sure will be great, but by and large, this year for me, and it's all really centered around the Cena booking. And it's not just all The Rock. The Rock thing threw it off in the wrong direction, but Cena's had strong performances as a heel that the more and more you see them, the more they feel like performances. Because we've had a lot of them that go on way too long, and there's just nothing really exciting. I mean, we'll talk about what happens later on, but him interacting with Cody again, okay, there's something, but it feels like there's something lacking from the Cena stuff and from just everything show-wide for me right now.
It's just a little.
Does
Like
it
I
feel off
said
to
now-
you? Does it feel off to you, the whole Cena run? Or at least since
Yeah,
WrestleMania? I mean, just what do you think?
Well, not necessarily off, just uninspiring. Just
Uninspired, maybe.
And-
yeah.
uninspired. And that's the thing is, as we're illustrating here. You got one show where there's a few things you might like to have seen a little bit more of, but mostly it's like, eh. And then as we'll get to the other show, it's like, oh my God, please make it stop over and over, hours and hours. We've seen everything. My God, you've desecrated the corpse. If there could just be something in that happy little sweet spot, you think, right in the middle. Anyway, speaking of a sweet spot, Leilani Kai was at ringside. Nice to see her. And Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda, both of them were looking very rotunda. I'm the only guy in the wrestling business that got out of the business and lost weight. Now I'd amongst all of my contemporaries, I would be one of the fucking people that would tipple the scale at the least amount these days.
It was nice to see Leilani Kai. I don't think they've ever really had her at one of these things, but she seemed delighted to be there, or as happy as could be.
She's a happy person. I was glad to see
Yeah,
her.
it's always nice when you see someone who's not one of the usual suspects and they actually seem like they appreciate being there. And Wyndham and Rotunda, it's just nice to see they're still here.
Well, and also, and it was close because they're right down the road.
Are they? Does Barry Windham? I don't want to get into where he
don't-
lives now. I'm not sure.
I don't. I'm not. I'm not allowed under court order to reveal that at any rate. So then, and you could tell, I think they were running a little long because most of Jey Uso's entrance was in break. You saw him coming in, and he had a long way to go, and they had to get this thing going because they had 2 hours, and this was the 5th match. And by the time they got him in and rung the bell, Jey Uso and Logan Paul for the world title, the bell rang at 9:50 p.m. Eastern. We're barely 10 minutes on the air left, so they opened up fast, went 1 minute, Logan Paul did a dive, and they went to the break. There was 8 minutes left on the air when they went to the break. And they came back. It was a short break, I believe, only about 2.5 minutes, but when they come back, Jay had already made the comeback and the ass in the face, and they're doing false finishes. And they did a number of false finishes. Logan Paul got one, and Jey Uso got one, and got another one. And then they had pulled the turnbuckle pad off Logan Paul had on one of the middle turnbuckles. And Logan Paul ran Uso into that and then hit him with the knockout punch and got a 2 count. That old knockout punch ain't what it used to be. And then Uso hits a super kick and goes to the top and hits a big splash and 1, 2, and all of a sudden the referee whoosh, gets whisked out of the ring like a tablecloth, and it's John Cena, pulled him out on the floor and jumped into the ring and started beating the shit out of Jey. And then music plays, and here comes Cody. And he hits the ring and he gets on John Cena. And he hit the crossroads for the first time ever when he hit his back, meaning Cody. Cena still had about another 30 seconds before he landed. He just landed on top of boom and walked off. And then Jey speared Logan Paul and hit the splash off the top, and the referee counted 1, 2, 3, despite being pulled out on the floor by the aforementioned John Cena. And then so Jey won, and Cody got on a microphone and says, "You've ruined enough," and my DVR froze. So they were right down to the nub on time. Have you ever seen a more rushed match than this as a main event on a network TV special?
Well, it definitely seemed like they were going long when they went to the main event, and I looked at the clock. I was like, oh my God, what's on at 10? And then I realized, yeah, there is programming on at 10, and it's NBC's like, it was Dateline or something. And they were right at the limit, if not a little bit past it. And they set up the match for Money in the Bank. Cody Rhodes' return match will be teaming with Jey Uso against John Cena and Logan Paul. What do you think?
Well, that's all fine. I'm fine with that. I would have liked to have seen more than 4 minutes of this fucking match on the air and try to get the angle in at the end when you've got 2 fucking hours. Get the angle in at the end with enough time that the announcers can reinforce it for 30 seconds and my DVR can have a chance to fucking do its temperamental shit. But this was right down to the nub.
Yeah, you know NBC put a lot of commercials in when TKO said, this is too commercialized.
But that was Saturday night's main event, and I would like to see the tag team match. I'd like to have seen a little bit more of some of these things just for the sake of it. It was, again, it's like you're either starved or you're force-fed to the point of nausea.
Well, we'll see what happens. Of course, we're on the road to Money in the Bank. We'll hopefully see Jesse Ventura again on this show. That would be a awful way for his swan song to transpire.
I think if to see Jesse in the future, I think we need to find that particular home that he'll be residing in for dealing with some of his dementia-related issues.
Oh, stop it. Will you stop it? Dementia-related issues.
I think that there'll be a day where we can bring Governor Jesse some
I've got more important things on my mind, like MI5.
Yeah, well, he's going to have some MIs up his yin-yang as they're testing him for the cognitive decline that he's suffering. So I think we need to bring Jesse some peach cobbler every Sunday afternoon in the new home they're putting him in.
Well, maybe I would still watch him as a commentator, but that was Saturday night's main event. And of course, Jim, if you watch John Cena here, you may watch him and go, that man is not snug. That man does not squeeze a headlock. That man does not grip a crossface. It's wonderful for his opponents. They don't have to worry about a cauliflower ear from working with Mr. Cena. And if they had one, they may have hearing loss. And of course, hearing loss inflicts so many, if inflict is in fact the word we want to use here, all throughout the land.
It inflicts
there are so many who have hearing loss from everyday activity. And of course, some are, I guess, just born with it. Well, not I guess, they are. We're talking about you, mom and pop, or whoever you are at home, all alone. Maybe you're by yourself. But hearing is something that can escort you throughout the rest of your way, listening to music, podcasts, and of course, everyday conversation. Jim, I'm sure you have something to say about MD hearing.
It's hard to hear things when you can't hear. That's why that you need to hear me now. Well, that's a good question, Brian. How are the folks hearing me now? If the folks that need hearing aids because they can't hear, how are they hearing me now if they still need the hearing aid? So I can tell them about the hearing aid that they so desperately need. It's all a vicious catch-22, ladies and gentlemen. But I'll tell you one thing, regardless of the stiffness of the headlocks, I don't know if somebody can just take a good slap to the side of the head and be benefited by MD hearing. But if you're like so many Americans or other peoples of other lands around the world, and you can't afford gas and food, and everything's getting more expensive, and everything's inflation, and you just say, I'm just going to put off the hearing aid thing. It's too expensive. Well, that's where MD hearing comes into play, because the prices may be crazy at the clinics or the doctor's receptacles at the various, is that a word, Brian? Like inflicts? If you're having inflicted
Doctor's
receptacles, no, you don't need to do that anymore. MD hearing.
You don't need to do that anymore. No,
you don't need to do that anymore, because MD hearing is featuring low cost, high quality hearing aids. $297 for a pair of hearing aids this good is absolutely just burjork, just completely crazy, go mad nuts. And they've recently cut their prices to make these more affordable to the general public, because the general public can't hear it thunder. That's why you're seeing a lot more people run down in the streets, Brian, because they can't hear when the guy honks his horn or screams, "Get out of the fucking way, I'm going to run you down," and boom.
For the record, we don't have any evidence to show that there is any
statistics prove that most people that are run down at a high rate of speed don't. No, I'm telling you,
if you had those statistics, it could possibly prove that. You don't. It won't.
This is true. The statistics are that most people that are run down at a high rate of speed by a motor vehicle do not survive. I'm just telling you. That's science right there. It's the science of the lambs. So, folks, again,
you sounded serious. You actually made me believe you for a second, and then the science of the lambs.
Well, because it's true. Think about it. And the folks at MD Hearing want you to be able to afford these. And as I mentioned, I've given a pair to Stacy's stepfather, who has a little problem with the hearing there, and now he hates the whole family. He hears everything that we say about him. But folks, MD Hearing was founded by an ENT surgeon who saw how many of his patients needed hearing aids but couldn't afford them. And that's why he wanted to make his mission developing a quality hearing aid that anybody could afford. And he has done so here, because they've sold over 2 million hearing aids. Did you know that 2 million people were not just trying to imitate Steve Austin when they said, what? 2 million hearing aids they've sold.
Those were potential clients for MD Hearing, and hopefully they hear this.
They couldn't hear a goddamn. They kept saying, turn it up. What? Turn it up. We can't hear you, goddamn it. I tell Stace that all the time. She believes me too.
You know, I hate to cost us any business, but MD Hearing should probably contact Steve Austin about doing commercials. Just based off the what thing.
But he would charge so much that they would take the money they're paying us and pay him, and then we'd be out in the cold. And then we'd be saying, what?
What?
Folks, they offer a 45-day risk-free trial with a 100% money-back guarantee, so that you can sample this fine product before you fully commit to a lifelong relationship, and you have confidence that they're not going to hornswoggle you. And they were just selected to be the hearing aid supplier for top Medicare Advantage plans. So they're a brand you can trust, because they're hooked in with the babyface part of the government, Medicare. Get the high quality, affordable hearing aids you deserve with MD Hearing, folks. Go to Shop MD Hearing and use the promo code JCE to get a pair of hearing aids for just $297. That's $150 less an ear, for heaven's sake. As a matter of fact, if you have recently lost an ear in some type of, wrestling ring related catastrophe like Mick Foley, contact them and see if they'll just sell you one, because why the fuck would they penalize you? That'd be anti-discrimination laws of some kind. One-eared people unite. ShopMDHearing.com and use the promo code JCE. Hearing aids, just $297 if you need both, and a free extra charging case. That's a $100 value. They're throwing that in there. Brian, do you think if you only needed one, will they work with you?
Well, you buy the pair, you have the pair. Of course, a lot of us have hearing loss. I have hearing loss from years ago in concerts and being way too careless about my ears. And of course, now I have a way to hear everything.
You just let your ears go when you were younger, just go everywhere, unaccompanied and associate with a lower class of people.
Now they have MD Hearing to accompany them. Jim, what's that promo code one last time?
JCE.
MDHearing.com/JCE.
Well, no, shop mdhearing.com, but you asked for the promo code. You didn't specify you wanted the whole shebang.
Jim,
there.
what's that shebang website?
Well, Shapoopy, go to shopmdhearing.com and use the promo code JCE to get the pair of hearing aids and a charging case, $297. That's $149 per ear. One-eared people inquire separately.